thousands of people raised their voices to protest President Trump's immigration policy.
These folks are going to walk in the streets today to make that point. Look at ICE. What a group of incompetents.
You get rid of ICE, you're going to have a country that you're going to be afraid to walk out of your house.
President Trump will soon announce his pick to replace the retiring Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy.
He suggested he might start some of that interviewing this weekend.
I think it's time for an entire new generation of leadership in the Democratic Party. We are literally in the worst position as a party since the 1920s.
I am not about to let this country go by the way of Donald Trump. Today I say impeach 45.
I hope they keep thinking about it because they're going to get beaten so badly.
He's got the red, white, blue, brown hound farm. Silver pride tattoo on his left dog. Spent a little more in the store for a tag in the back of his and he can't fix. Craftsman rich, he ain't prejudice. He's just made in America.
This is not a test. This is live in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We're not there. We're in New York City, but we put this together with Phantom Fireworks.
Because we are celebrating freedom this morning here on Fox and Friends, and we're going to be celebrating all morning and all week long. Usually we celebrate freedom every day on the show, but 4th of July is just another reason to just be so thankful for the country we live in, and what better way than some fireworks. So
you can have that in your backyard, right?
Yeah, and we're going to give you some tips actually later on in the show, thanks to Phantom Fireworks.
Phantom Fireworks put it
So if you
together
can do it
Wyoming.
legally in your state, by all means. I think California you can.
You cannot. I'll tell you what, that must be, what time is it in it's 4 a.m. in Cheyenne. There's some people waking up going, what's going on?
It's already light here, so we couldn't do it in New York City. There's also some of the ordinances on 6th Avenue. We probably can't just throw some fireworks
It
up
would be
there,
interesting. It would be interesting.
Yeah. Well, good morning to all of you. We've got Dean Cain on the couch
welcome
again.
back.
Always love
Thank
having
you.
you with us.
Love to be here. Thank you very much.
And a busy 4 hours, and we do start, of course, with a lot of news. President Trump doubling down on ICE, saying these represent the very best men and women among us. Here he is.
The 28-year-old socialist that just beat out Joe Crowley says abolish ICE. And get this, more Democrats are getting in line with that. Kirsten Gillibrand today saying we need to abolish ICE.
Well, I hope they keep thinking about it because they're going to get beaten so badly. Do you know, ICE, these are the guys that go in and take MS-13 and they take them out because they're much tougher than MS-13, like by a factor of 10. And these are the ones, you get rid of ICE, you're going to have a country that you're going to be afraid to walk out of your house. I love that issue if they're going to actually do that.
So I think you can boil down what he said into 3 words: bring it on. This started out as something on the far left. You basically had socialists saying, you know, let's abolish ICE, this agency that was created after 9/11 to protect us, to deport illegal immigrants who could potentially be terrorists. That's why it was created post 9/11. And yet, once this 28-year-old socialist candidate here in New York beat Democratic Congressman Joe Crowley this week, you had this stampede of Kirsten Gillibrand and Kamala Harris, other senators and House members who have standing in the Congress, in the Senate, all of a sudden saying, yeah, okay, socialists started it, I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to run with it. And I'm just going to abolish this agency in the middle of what even Democrats say is a border crisis.
Yeah. And
how does that make sense?
A lot of this anger is about President Trump. We saw that with this rally yesterday of Keep Families Together. So if you're going to be against the president, don't put the blame on ICE, right? Because they are just doing their job. They are doing what they are told from the top of the administration. They're doing very much of what they did, by the way, under the Bush years and under the Obama years. So I said this yesterday, I'll say it again. Where was the anger? Where were the protests under Barack Obama?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Congress's job is to make the laws, and then ICE is supposed to enforce them. Am I off base there?
No, that's
so.
absolutely
These
right.
guys are enforcing the laws that they're told to enforce. Congress is the one who needs to act. But here you go. You have all these members of Congress now jumping on the bandwagon, think this is the way to win. This is the hot new topic.
Right. Well, if Senator Gillibrand has examples of them overstepping their power, of course federal agents need to be reined in of any kind if they're doing something wrong. Then you have hearings on the Hill, as you say, and Congress has oversight power as well to say, hey, relax this, don't do that.
Right.
But you don't just abolish the agency and say, oh, we're just not going to have anybody to deport illegal immigrants.
Well, you may have wanted to tell some of the protesters that yesterday because they were singing a different tune about ICE and about President Trump. Take a look at yesterday.
The message is that we are one people on this earth. So instead of separating ourselves, through race and bigotry. We can all work better as one.
The president's deeply immoral actions have made it obvious we need to rebuild our immigration system from top to bottom, starting by replacing ICE with something that reflects our morality.
America at its best is big, beautiful, and diverse. It's not petty and not exclusive like Mar-a-Lago.
Ultra exclusive. Tremendous exclusivity.
We will not relent, we will not tire, we will keep fighting because we are better than this.
Look at ICE. What a group of incompetents. At this point, they're focused more on toddlers than terrorists. They want to, instead of deporting felons, they want to deport families that are being persecuted by criminal gangs. Instead of focusing on stopping bad drugs from coming in and stopping dirty drug money from going out, they're focusing on separating kids from their families. It's time to put an end to this cruel and incompetent policy.
So what an interesting contrast. We start that montage with a young woman who says, look, I'm just talking about the message being people coming together, all races, let's end bigotry. Who can possibly disagree with that?
Sounds
you
great.
end it with again, someone with real standing, a leader in the Senate, Democrat Dick Durbin, saying that ICE is a group of incompetents. What kind of message is that sending? That these people trying to do their job to enforce our laws are incompetent. That's absurd.
Dick Durbin is the second-ranking Democrat in the Senate, by the way, and he's painting this broad brush on ICE, right? I mean, you think about over, what, 30,000 people that work for ICE, men and women, that are putting, many of them, their jobs on the line. It's a tough role that they play, Dean. It's not an easy one.
The law enforcement, what they're doing, they're not just, they're not just a deportation force. They do a whole lot more of that. These guys they deal with cybercrime. I think the deportation
Child
is about
trafficking
40% of what they do.
that.
Yeah, it's huge. And these guys are trying to do their job to the best of their ability, and their marching orders come from Congress. So if you guys want to change it, and don't blame the soldiers that are out there doing their job.
Funny quick thing, Brad Parscale, who's going to be the campaign manager for the Trump re-election committee, was trolling Senator Gillibrand last night on Twitter because he went to her website. She has this whole section on ending illegal immigration. We need to hire more Border Patrol agents, zero tolerance, essentially, like the Trump administration. And he's out there saying, you might want to update your website because now you want to abolish ICE. That doesn't square.
Right.
Well, ICE doesn't actually do the border.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but
correct.
Border Patrol is the
Separate.
one that does that. Yeah, and that's.
But how can you be for abolishing the folks who are supposed to deport illegal immigrants? And but I really want to step up patrol on the border. Come on, it doesn't square.
It's the height of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Maxine Waters,
she's
she's
at it again. But you remember her last week, and she really stepped up the anger, calling people to get out on the streets and protest and show how upset you are. I guess she then was receiving death threats because of her orders or what she was telling people to do.
Which is serious and shouldn't happen. Obviously, people on both sides can really get out of control with some of this rhetoric and whatnot. But rather than calming it down.
Yeah, she then doubles down, though, on this rhetoric. And she says, if you are going to shoot at me, you better shoot straight. Listen to what she has to say here.
Now, we have some members of Congress who are intimidated. I have no fear. I'm in this fight. And I know that there are those who are talking about censoring me, talking about kicking me out of Congress, talking about shooting me, talking about hanging me. All I have to say is this. If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. There's nothing like a wounded animal. I am not about to let this country go by the way of Donald Trump. We are sick and tired of him. He's been there too long. They dare me to say impeach him. Today I say impeach 45.
You know, there's been this fight back and forth all week. Who started this uncivil talk? You can spend all day debating that. But if you're Maxine Waters and you legitimately got death threats, I pray that she hasn't.
I hope
if
so.
She has.
No.
People should knock it off. This is insane. On both sides. Again, I'll say it on both sides. People should cool the rhetoric down. But if you did get death threats, how can you go out there at these rallies, which are supposed to be, as we said with that young woman a moment ago, and bigotry come together. Wonderful message. How can you go out there and say, if you're going to shoot me, shoot straight.
Yeah.
If you want to hang me, hang me. Are you kidding me?
Just pouring
Calm
fuel
it
on the
down.
fire. That's just pouring fuel on the fire. No question about it. And she, you know, I guess it's getting into this sort of street fight thing for her and taking it on, you know, full bore. But I mean, who knows? She's putting it out there again. It's more of that same rhetoric. I would much rather see people come together myself. Maybe it starts with leadership.
Where's the leadership on
You're
the Democratic
exactly
side?
right. This is when leadership actually matters. And it's that type of rhetoric that has gotten us to where we are right now. Let us know what you think about that. Friends at foxnews.com. We do have a lot of other news I want to bring you this morning, though. Let me bring you those headlines. Starting with this. Tensions are boiling out of control as Antifa and right-wing activists clash during a conservative march. Out of control. Anti-fascists pelting eggs, water bottles, and even firecrackers at a Patriot prayer group. Portland police making several arrests and seizing knives, pepper spray, and clubs. The conservative group was marching in support of its founder, Joey Gibson, who is running for U.S. Senate. Also this, a lifelong Border Patrol agent is picked to lead ICE. Ronald Vitello is named the deputy director and also takes on the role as acting director of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He brings more than 30 years of law enforcement experience. Vitello is replacing Thomas Homan, who retired on Friday. He has been a guest a number of times on the show. Good guy. All right, Republican Michael Cloud wins a Texas congressional special election by a landslide. Cloud avoiding a runoff in Saturday's race, earning 55% of the vote in a crowded field. He will finish the term of Blake Farenthold, who resigned over sexual misconduct accusations. The term expires in January. Cloud says that he will run again in November. And outrage on both sides of the aisle over an anti-Trump restaurant manager fired for refusing to serve a customer wearing a MAGA hat. The Tea House in Vancouver, Canada is now being flooded with one-star reviews on Yelp. Some are angry at the restaurant kicking out the customer, and others are ripping them for firing the manager. Darren Hodge, he claims that the hat symbolizes racism and bigotry. Not having a good day, this restaurant.
That's all, and it's just
like calm it down.
That
Both
might-
sides just keep rationing it
That
out.
might cause the restaurant to go under.
Yeah, all those
one-star reviews on Yelp. All right, well, several Democrats rallying to abolish ICE. But do they really know what the agency does? A former ICE agent is here to give us an inside look. Next.
And New York congressional candidate, we mentioned her a moment ago, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, isn't shy about being a socialist. Go to her website. After promoting her lipstick following her big victory, she just got a little lesson in capitalism. Oh, I want to hear all about this story.
Well, calls to abolish ICE going from a fringe movement on the far left to the mainstream Democratic Party's platform as protests erupt across the nation.
But what is the actual mission of ICE, and what role does it play in our national security? Our next guest knows firsthand, former special agent in charge for Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Homeland Security investigations in San Antonio, Jerry Robinette. Jerry, how are you?
Morning.
Good morning.
So you hear all these calls to abolish ICE, and it seems unclear what ICE's real role actually is.
Well, I mean, as you know, ICE is composed of basically two components, enforcement removal operation and HSI. HSI is that investigative arm of ICE. It's just unfortunate that when you see what's on TV, the only thing they're reporting is basically the administrative, arrest and housing and deportation of illegal aliens, and the work of the agents is not being covered or reported on.
Beyond just the enforcement part, help our audience understand when it comes to ICE, with there are over 30,000 people that work for ICE, what are their duties? What are some of the things that they do in this country?
Well, as SHI agents, we have HSI is composed of approximately 8,400 personnel. Of those 8,400, 6,100 of them are special agents. The special agents are just like special agents that are special agents at DEA, special agents at FBI, special agent at Secret Service. These are criminal investigators that conduct investigations. HSI is responsible for investigating violations of customs and immigration law as it impacts our homeland security, our border security, and public safety. Everything that we do is connected to those three prongs.
Now, Border Patrol and ICE, are those are different agencies and they have different functions? Is that correct?
Correct. HSI, basically, we work hand in hand with Customs and Border Protection, which is composed of field operations and Border Patrol. Border Patrol patrols the border. Field operations controls the ports of entry. Whenever they encounter narcotics, contraband, whenever Border Patrol finds a tractor-trailer load of aliens, they call the agents to conduct the investigations. And it's not just the investigations of the crimes at hand. The purpose of HSI is to take that case and move forward as far as they can. Try to find out where were those aliens going, who were waiting on them, who were paying for those aliens, who are responsible for bringing them into the country. Same thing for the contraband. They're responsible for identifying where that contraband was going, who is going to be receiving, where's the money, and then follow it backwards.
Yeah, let me just lay out some of the accomplishments, and you've said a lot of that, but look at this. Back in 2017, more than 81,000 aliens, they were arrested. 92% of aliens arrested had criminal convictions, pending criminal charges, 4,800 criminal gang arrests. Nearly 800 arrests involved MS-13, 7,000 pounds of heroin, and 2,300 pounds of fentanyl were seized. What do you make, Jerry, of the rhetoric that we're hearing? We played just moments ago sound from Dick Durbin, the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, who said basically ICE, they're incomparable, the entire agency. What do you make of that?
Well, obviously, if he just spent 2 minutes on the internet, he could get a mouthful of what ICE and HSI does. I mean, I think it's irresponsible considering that these agents place their lives. We've had agents that have lost their lives in the performance of their duties. We've had agents that put their families in front of their jobs in front of their families. You know, you see them, they come to the border for a few hours. If they have a field trip, they spend a few hours at the border, then they go back and they pretend like they know what happens at the border. They have no clue.
Yeah.
And, you know, and honestly, I think they do have a clue, but it's not to their benefit to acknowledge the work that's being done.
It's a lot of politics there. Jerry, thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate what you do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Perspective. We need to hear that.
No
Thank you, Jerry.
question. Coming up, a vacation turns deadly. A tour boat with Americans on it erupting into flames in the Bahamas.
Yikes. And former President Obama backing Nancy Pelosi's potential return to Speaker, but a new poll shows her favorability is sinking within her own party. Diamond and Silk, they are fired up about this. They are here to react live next.
When are they not fired up?
First time in decades. The anti-Trump frontrunner Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, including this in his book, quote, Trump and his advisors speak of the Mexicans the way Hitler and the Nazis referred to the Jews. And German Chancellor Angela Merkel secures migration deals with 14 European Union countries. She's reportedly seeking to return migrants who have been rejected for asylum. The move is in response to the country's interior minister, who pledged to shut down the southern frontier if Merkel did not find a solution by the end of the month. Abby?
Thank you, Ed. All right, Barack Obama making a bold prediction for Nancy Pelosi this election season at a Democratic fundraiser. The former president reportedly saying she, quote, will once again be one of the greatest speakers we ever have after we get through this cycle.
But voters of his own party may not necessarily agree, as a new poll shows Pelosi's favorability falling to a 9-year low.
Well, social media stars and Trump supporters Diamond and Silk join us now to weigh in. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
I suspect there's somebody else who's endorsing Nancy Pelosi for Speaker, and that man's name is Donald Trump. He wants to see her. He doesn't want Democrats to take over, but if he has her out there as the top Democrat, that seems to be good for Republicans.
Yes, it does. And also, let me just say that if Barack Obama, if he's campaigning for Nancy Pelosi, that means he don't have a clue. He don't realize that Nancy Pelosi is not working for Americans, but she works for illegal aliens and MS-13 gang members. She don't work for Americans. So, you know, if he don't realize that, if there may be something wrong, maybe he just don't have a clue as to what's going on.
Well, I want your thoughts on this. We all saw the protests yesterday from coast to coast, thousands of people coming out over immigration. You had Democrats, you had the American people, you had a number of celebrities speaking out. Actually, let me show you this and I'll get your reaction afterwards.
We don't see our brothers and sisters who come to America for a better life as animals
or thugs.
America at its best is big, beautiful, and diverse. It's not petty and not exclusive like Mar-a-Lago.
Ultra exclusive. Tremendous.
Our democracy is at stake. Our humanity is at stake.
You have a message this morning for some of those protesters. What is it?
My message is this: stop being a hypocrite and start working for the American people. I think it's so sad when you have protesters out there advocating for illegal aliens, people that commit crimes, yet they don't advocate for the people that commit crimes in this country. They don't advocate for the people that, when they're taken to jail, their babies are snatched from their arms. They don't advocate for that. They didn't even advocate for the fact that babies and children was in cages up under the Obama administration. But yet they're protesting out in the streets today. For what? They're hypocrites. They need to start working for the American people first. Stop and stop allowing people to commit crimes and protesting about the fact that they should commit crimes, and that's okay. It's not okay. When you cross our borders, you must be legal. If not, then you cannot do that. If you're seeking asylum, go to the points of entry, not just cross our borders, because now you're committing a crime.
And charity starts at home. I wonder what John Legend, Kamala Harris, and Maxine Waters open up their house and allow these people to come in and run amok on them.
Well, Diamond and Silk, always with an opinion for sure. Ladies, thank you so much for your input. Let's go. Let's pick on some celebrities. No, I'm kidding. I'm glad you didn't pick on the celebrities because, you know, celebrities are people too. But thank you so much for your opinion, girls.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, ladies.
Meanwhile, the president says phase 2 of the tax cuts are on the way. He wants to make them permanent, even though Democrats say they want to take them away. How could this shape his economic legacy? We'll discuss that straight ahead.
Plus, did you know the significance of the year 1776? Well, you might be surprised by how many people don't know about it.
Oh, I don't know. Birth of a nation.
What is the significance of 1776? I don't know.
I'm not a history person.
I can tell.
Christopher Columbus.
Not a history person. Well, wait until you see the rest of this Independence Day quiz. Oh, you don't want to miss it.
And we are celebrating Independence Day with fireworks. We've got our very own display live from the Phantom Fireworks Superstore.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to stop until we have tuition-free public institutions for everyone. That federal jobs guarantee includes things like a higher federal minimum wage.
Approved and expanded Medicare for all, health care for every single person in America.
All right, that is a socialist from Queens who defeated Crowley, one of the top Democrats in the House who was supposed to take over leadership there. Surprised the country in this one. 28 years old. If she wins in November, she'll be the youngest woman to ever win in Congress.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
That is her name. And she did a debate on New York One, I think on June 15th. No one was really watching that debate, but after she obviously had this win, people went back and did some research on her and noticed the lipstick that she was wearing.
Standing out.
And a lot of women were wanting to know where she got it from. So she then tweeted this out. She said, I have been getting many inquiries about my debate lip color in the last 2 days. I got you. It's Stila. Stay all day liquid in beso.
Beso, which of course means kiss in Spanish.
Ah, very nice.
And it has since been sold out.
But it's interesting that you have the socialists promoting a little capitalism, if you will. Am I wrong?
Well, because Sephora is now saying it is, yes, sold out.
Wow.
A little promotion from a socialist candidate has helped the markets. A little capitalism.
She is a very attractive person, though, and certainly that doesn't hurt in advertising. I know a little bit about that. A little bit about that world.
It goes a long way.
It does go a long way, but it's pretty ironic.
Because you're attractive. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that, but you said it to me earlier, Ed. No, I think that certainly has something to do with it, and you know, I'd say good for her, but she's a socialist, so I'm kind of conflicted. I don't know what to say. What do I say?
The power of capitalism on full display here.
She says, hey, go check out the lipstick in the free market. And then her website has all this stuff about free tuition for all, Medicare for all, even though it's not really free.
Well, it's the free market, right?
Yeah. Just a little irony for your Sunday morning. But we've got a lot of other news I want to bring you as well, starting with this. An illegal immigrant could be to blame for starting a massive wildfire in Colorado. A Castilla County detention officer telling Reuters that Jesper Jorgensen is in the county illegally and will be handed over to ICE. The Springs fire, scorching 41,000 acres, is the most active of nearly a dozen blazes in that state. Also this, memorial services for 2 Capital Gazette staffers are set for next week. A celebration of life for Rob Hyson will take place on Monday, while a service for Wendy Winters will be next Saturday. They were 2 of the 5 people killed when a gunman opened fire inside of their Annapolis, Maryland offices on Thursday. And we have now learned that the suspected shooter threatened to kill a writer at the newspaper 5 years ago. They no longer work there. Jared Ramos making that threat in a 2014 court filing. He is being charged now with 5 counts of murder. And a tour boat explosion claims a life at sea in the Bahamas.
The boat! The boat! It's going to explode. Come on, Skipton.
We need to get away.
Wow, that blast sending thick fumes of smoke pouring into the sky as panic takes over on a nearby boat. The charter was carrying 12 people, including 10 Americans. 9 were injured. Early reports say that a boat engine caught fire, but the cause is still under investigation. Then there's this. A driver who felt guilty is finally paying a parking ticket 44 years later. What?
It's addressed, of course, to the police department with the return address of Feeling Guilty, Wayward Road, Anytown, California.
That is a lot of time to be feeling guilty. Well, inside that letter was a note that reads, quote, "Dear PD, I've been carrying this ticket around for 40 plus years. Always intended to pay. Forgive me if I don't give you my info. With respect, Dave."
Dave.
Wow. Well, the ticket issued in Pennsylvania back in 1974 was only $2. The driver paid $5, adding $3 extra for interest.
I think he was a little low on his interest. What do you think?
I think he had to get it off his chest, Adam. Adam Klotz, what do you think? I mean, you pay your parking tickets on time?
Yeah, I do because I'm a chicken, but I wouldn't have after 44 years, and this guy losing sleep over it, I doubt it. I don't know.
At that point, you just
I would make a run for it. Yeah, definitely.
It was weighing on his conscience. It was weighing.
Yeah, weighing on the conscience. So here's what we're talking about weather-wise, guys. Here throughout the rest of the weekend, we've already noticed how hot it is. Yeah, surprise, surprise. That is continuing. Here are your temperatures currently. Not daytime highs, already close to 80 degrees here in New York City. Again, we've got the watches, the warnings all in place, stretching back across portions of the Midwest. Chicago down to St. Louis, again New York City, Philadelphia down towards D.C., all areas where we're under heat advisories once again, which means heat indices up to 105 to 110 degrees. It could be dangerous to spend too much time outside today. Temperatures, what will they be running up to? Well, we're going to be seeing spots getting again. These are your actual temperatures, not your feels like. Your actual temperatures getting up to the 90s again today, and unfortunately that isn't leaving. 97 degrees today in New York City, guys. But we're cooling off. Good news. Only 94 degrees for tomorrow. So you're really going to enjoy that Monday.
It's going the right direction.
Yeah.
Not much of a difference. But
that
thanks,
is
Adam.
hot. Thank you, Adam.
All right, well, it's Independence Day weekend, and we are celebrating this morning with fireworks.
And here with some important safety tips and information, the regional manager of Phantom Fireworks, Chris Beller. Chris is live at the new Phantom Fireworks Superstore in Cheyenne, Wyoming. At the end of the segment, they're going to be putting on a little show for us.
Yeah,
it's early in the morning there, isn't it?
It is very early in the morning here. It's great to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's pretty cold here. I'm glad to be here to talk about some safety tips, some nice products that we have this year at Phantom, and as you can see, our nice new building, our newest showroom here.
So what are the
we'll
two
do
or three things
some of the stuff live for you.
What are the 2 or 3 things you want families to know as they get ready for the big 4th of July holiday?
So some major safety tips. Always adults are the ones handling the fireworks, never the kids. Have them at a safe distance. The adults should always be handling the fireworks. And always keep a water source nearby. My preference is a water hose, but a bucket of water or a fire extinguisher are also great options for that.
What are some of the products that people can use? And by the way, you want to make sure that you can legally use fireworks in your state before you set them off. That's probably lesson number 1. But what are some of the products that you have?
That's correct, and you can go to fireworks.com. You can see all the state's rules right there, as well as other safety tips. But some products like we have here, we have some 500-gram repeaters, mortar kits. You get nice aerial displays with those, some ground displays, And then we got the other 500 gram repeaters over here, sparklers. There's something for everybody. If you want a really big show, if you want something small on the ground, we got something for everybody.
And I guess if people mention Fox and Friends at any Phantom fireworks store nationwide, they're going to save $85 on a 500 gram repeater. That's a great deal, but you're also putting on a show for us. People in Cheyenne waking up to this, I hope they're not mad at Fox.
Well, where we're at, there's not too many people around, so I'm not sure they're going to hear us. We do have that special deal for you, though. We want to offer, because the 4th of July is all about Independence Day.
There you go, I hear it.
I guess they're starting.
Yeah, there it
Here they
goes.
go.
Especially for our show this morning. How special is that?
Somebody press the button.
So beautiful.
I love it.
That's amazing.
That was a heck of a minute of fireworks, huh?
That was awesome.
We are waking you up this morning.
Everybody's waking up this morning with fireworks.
So
That's the way it
beautiful.
goes.
Check it out, fireworks.com. You get the safety tips, and they got the products as well. We appreciate what they did for us this morning, and we're celebrating freedom all morning, as Abby said earlier. Meanwhile, the president's saying those crumbs Nancy Pelosi talked about, there's going to be more of them, actually.
We're doing a phase 2. We'll be doing it probably in October, maybe a little sooner than that. And it'll be more of a middle class. We did a lot for the middle class, but this will be even more aimed at the middle class.
I think he's actually saying it's not just crumbs, it's an entire cake, and it's on the way. It's going to be delivered before the election. How can this shape the president's economic legacy? What will it do for your wallet? That's more important. One man who's working with the White House will tell us exactly what it's going to do.
And do you know why we celebrate Independence Day? Well, you might be surprised by how many people didn't know.
Why do we celebrate the 4th of July? What's the significance of 1776?
Christopher Columbus.
Your son.
He would know the
headlines for you. Recreational marijuana now legal in 2 East Coast states today. In Massachusetts, customers 21 and over can buy pot at licensed stores. But in Vermont, marijuana users can only smoke in private places. And San Francisco is now the first major U.S. city with $15 minimum wage. Voters approving the measure 4 years ago, requiring a $1 increase each year. 142,000 workers, including janitors and restaurant employees, are now expected to benefit from that hike. Ed, over to you.
All right, thanks, Abby. President Trump announcing phase 2 of those tax cuts.
Are you looking for a phase 2 tax
We're
plan?
doing a phase 2. We'll be doing it probably in October, maybe a little sooner than that. This will be even more aimed at the middle class. One of the things we're thinking about is bringing the 21% down to 20, and then for the most part, the rest of it would go right to the middle class.
Well, what does that mean for your wallet? Here to break down details, Julio Gonzalez. He is working to shore up support for Tax Cuts 2.0. And just to clarify, he is not working on behalf of the White House. He's not a White House spokesperson, but he's working to support this push to expand the tax breaks. We appreciate you coming in today, Julio.
Thank you for having me.
So let's first break down for people. They may not really understand what the president is referring to because he's revealing it first to our own Maria Bartiromo. Everyone can see that full interview in a couple of hours. But 6 months ago, historic tax cuts. What does he want to do in phase 2?
Well, he definitely wants to reduce the tax rates, more crumbs for everyone. He wants to make the tax cuts permanent. I think that's going to be really important. He wants to stimulate entrepreneurship even further with more business credits and incentives. He wants to promote individual retirement savings and fix some technical errors. When you change 1,000 pages of tax code, you do it in a short period of time, there's always some things that you need to fine tune and fix up.
So let me play devil's advocate for a moment, because we heard the president talking on Friday about how historic this was and was such a great job in round one. I get that you've got to fix some technical errors in any major piece of legislation. You have to do that months later. I get that. But is this an acknowledgement that maybe phase one was more geared towards corporations and less towards the middle class, and he's trying to fix that?
Well, I think that basically, I mean, it accomplished both. Tax reform accomplished benefits for both middle class, all individuals, and corporations. But I think here he wants to bring down the individual tax rates even further to help stimulate the economy and commit to some of the promises he made in his campaign.
So what do you think will be the most important new piece of phase two that will affect our viewers?
Well, I think permanency is important because right now everything is sunsetting in 5 to 10 years. So it makes it difficult to plan, and it makes it difficult to project how you'll take benefit now. So making it permanent is important because we know Nancy wants to basically repeal tax reform, and if we make it permanent, the stars would have to align, the House and Senate and the president would all have to be Democrats to change that.
So I get that the president's also trying to counteract what you just said, which is that Nancy Pelosi is saying elect Democrats to run the House, and we're going to repeal phase one. So he wants to get ahead of that and even get to phase two. But how is he going to get it done in October, right before the election, when Nancy Pelosi may not have the votes to stop him in the House, but Chuck Schumer probably wants to stop him in the Senate?
Well, they got tax reform 1.0 done, and they still have control, and he has a lot of incentives, and he has a lot of control with some of the Democrats now, as he's shown how powerful he is and how much America loves him. So now's the time to do it. I mean, it shouldn't happen every 30 years. I think he wants to show that tax reform can change every year to benefit the economy and fine-tune it every year and make it stronger.
Will be interesting as well to see if Senate Democrats do not want to block phase two in October on the eve of a midterm election when a Joe Manchin and other moderate Democrats may need those tax cuts. Julio Gonzalez, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up, Democrats joining thousands of protesters nationwide. Charlie Kirk went toe-to-toe with some of those protesters to grill them on the actual substantive issues. He found out some very interesting stuff. He'll join us live next hour. And do you know the significance of the year 1776? I hope so, but sadly, not everyone seems to.
What is the significance of 1776? I don't know. Why do we celebrate the 4th of July? What's the significance of 1776?
Christopher Columbus.
Civil War.
Close.
Or the end of it, or the end of slavery.
Oh boy.
That is real, folks. So those were just some of the answers our next guest got when he asked beachgoers in Santa Monica.
Wait, that's where you are. I live 10 minutes from there.
Ask them the significance of Independence Day.
Will Witt created this video for PragerU, and he joins us now with more. Will, thank you for coming on. What is wrong with my people in California? What is does nobody study history anymore?
Well, this is what happens when you have leftists run education in this country. They have control over public schools, and they also have control over the universities. And so these teachers, these professors are telling students not to appreciate America, American history isn't important, and that we need to be more like socialist countries like Venezuela.
Well, and maybe they should spend less time in the gym and more reading some of our history books.
That guy was in good shape.
They look great, but you have a little more sound you can play for us, right?
A little more sound?
Yeah, a little more. You have some other answers that you got from people.
Oh, yeah, we did. We got a lot of answers from people. I mean, the most important one that I thought was that people thought that Christopher Columbus came over in 1776, which was just
1492.
All right, let's play it.
Let's listen.
Oh, my.
Why do we celebrate the 4th of July? I don't really know.
I forgot.
What is the significance of 1776? I don't know.
Not a history person.
I can tell.
Christopher Columbus.
Oh, my.
Christopher Columbus.
What made you want to go out and ask these questions, Will? Did you get a sense when you were hanging around the beach that maybe people didn't really know a lot about their history?
Yeah, well, I was actually surprised. I went out there and we thought that people were going to know what was going on, why we celebrate the 4th of July, and we went out there and we're very surprised. And, you know, this is an issue that Americans are facing that I feel like people don't really know about. They don't know that people aren't being taught these things. Older generations don't know that young people, millennials, don't learn this at all in school. And so it's a shocking thing to realize, and it's one of the biggest problems facing this country, that people don't appreciate America.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, Prager, you got 1 billion views on videos last year, so that's pretty incredible, and you guys are doing your part to educate, that's for sure.
Exactly, yeah. With 1 billion views, we're going to hit about 1 billion views this year as well on our videos. I mean, we are the counter to the education that's happening in public schools.
Will Witt, thanks
Keep up the good work.
Thank you,
Thank
Will.
you.
1 billion.
All right.
Well said.
Coming up on the show, Charles Payne, Dan Bongino, and Maria Bartiromo, and her exclusive interview and sit down with President Trump you don't want to miss.
What a group. And who would do such a thing? The oldest man in the United States, 112-year-old World War II veteran Richard Overton, just became a victim of identity theft, draining his entire bank account.
Unreal.